Wow. Hi, everybody. Paul Sterling here from Hawaii. And wow, the workshop's about going from feeling stressed to being blessed. And I'm having a little stress over how to put together the system. And so it crashed right away. So anyway, welcome. Welcome. You are here and it's going to be amazing. I have a bunch of well, normally I use flip charts. So instead of flip charts, I've got little Post-its, not Post-its, but index cards. And I want to start with a Ram Dass quote that says, if you think you're enlightened, go home and spend a week with your family, or something like that. And so what I'd like to do is give you some tools to be able to go and work with the holidays and the upsets that happen in the holidays. And there's three main stressors, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But if you'll notice, there's a chat box over, hopefully I'm pointing the right direction for you. What I'd like you to do is be interactive. This is going to be an interactive as much as possible call. So what I want you to do is put your name and where you're dialing in from, and what's your biggest challenge over the holidays. So, and you'll notice I have, sometimes these are hard to read, but it says basically, what is your biggest challenge over the holidays? And we're going to cover a lot of things, and we're going to go through some interesting relationship tools and what triggers us. What are the stressors of the holidays? So you are in the right place if you occasionally get stressed over the holidays and you have communication misunderstandings or conflicts or upsets or people's feelings get hurt. Any of those, you're in the right place if you want to know what to do when you get triggered or the people you love and care about get triggered, so that it doesn't end up in this downward spiral to hell. You're in the right place if you want to know what the three biggest triggers are and what to do about it. So part of what inspired me, and if you haven't been on one of these calls with me before, this is my brief introduction. I'm Paul Sterling. I am a relationship coach, and I work mostly with couples, but a lot with individuals, helping them get the tools and techniques to transform their relationships. And by the way, one of the other tips of today is I'm going to tell you why most tips, tools, and techniques don't work when you need them the most, and what to do about it. So for most of you, what I want to say, it's easy when it's easy. So when everything's going great during the holidays and you're feeling good and loved and adored, it's easy. What today's webinar is about is what to do when it gets hard. And hopefully you enjoy these little things because they help me and hopefully they help you. And by the way, the writing isn't quite as neat as it could be. But what I want you to know is what starts the downward spiral, what accelerates it, what stops it, and what turns it around. So I'm going to go through all of those today. And like I said, there's three main areas, number 1, 2, and 3. And this right here in the center is the perfect storm, or the holiday from hell. So I'm going to go for about an hour, maybe a little longer, if you interact and ask a bunch of questions. If you don't, then it probably stay close to an hour. I'm going to go through a bunch of content. And at the end, if people want to know how to do more, how to take their learning to a higher level, I'm going to tell you how to do that. So aloha from Hawaii. I am on Kauai right now. And wow, environment does help reduce stress. There's no doubt about it. And that's something to think about. What kind of environment are you in, and what do you surround yourself with? Are you with people that help you feel better about yourself or bring you down? So here's the way today is going to work. We want to give you tools to go from feeling stressed to feeling blessed, from grumpy to grateful. And I learned these. You know, they say you teach what you need to learn. So I need to learn these too. This is my reminder. And so today they're going to be step 1, step 2, step 3, and then happy. What I wanted to be able to do is make it simple so that you can affect it and use it. And I also want to tell you why most of these tools don't work when you need them the most. So I wanted to give you some tips and tools that are at their best when your situation is at its worst. So whenever you're ready, type into the chat room next door. Let me see. Yeah, type in what is the biggest challenge you have over the holidays? All right, now diving in. Step 1 is to identify what the stressors are. Step 2, to figure out some quick solutions, some tips, tools, and techniques to solve the problem. Number 3, implement them. And number 4, be happy. So what are the 3 biggest stressors? And you can, there's tons of little ones, but the 3 biggest ones, as far as I can tell from working with lots and lots of clients and myself, number 1, communication problems. And communication problems lead to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, arguments, upsets, conflict. That's number 1. Number 2 is triggers, emotional hot buttons that get pushed during the holidays. And we'll go through what triggers are and what happens to the brain. There's 3 basic parts of the brain that we're going to get into. And when you get triggered, you move from being resourceful to being reactive. So we'll dive into that in a second. And then the third part today is we're going to talk about needs. And there's a lot of what I call needs shame. Don't be needy. Don't talk about your needs. You shouldn't need anything. And the truth of the matter is we all have these beautiful needs. And it's really wonderful when we can find our needs and our partner's needs is precious. And what happens is when we don't think that our needs are valued or being treated as precious, we end up getting triggered. So all of these kind of work together back to this thing, the perfect storm. Communication problems, triggers, and needs. And if you're having communication problems, like you can't communicate about your needs, and you're getting triggered, and needs aren't getting met, all of this together turns the holidays into something from hell. So let's dive in a little bit here. And this is called a cybernetic loop. And you're all here because of this green box here. You're all here for one reason, and that's because you want to have some different results in your life. So what causes you to get results? What is it that creates results in your life? This blue box. So in this box, oh, by the way, hopefully, I forgot to say this, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, and take some notes. This is going to be some important information. So again, you're here because you want some results. You either want something to stop, change, or start. You want to stop having upsets. You want to start feeling more connected. You want to change either the way that you're reacting or your partner's reacting. To do that, to get this result, you have to take certain actions. So actions control your results, and what controls your actions is your beliefs. So beliefs, actions, results. And what controls a lot of your beliefs is your past results. So this ends up being a loop here. And then if we want to make a change in the loop, we need to come up to this orange box. So what is in there? I filled it in for you. So here you go. Results, actions, beliefs. And hopefully you can read this. This is why I'm going along, because if you can't read it, it's okay. My handwriting needs some work. This one up here is having a vision of what you want, and a vision of possibility. So what has to happen is you have to make and the vision is about the future, your results are about the past. So you've got to look at this vision of what do you want? What would be a great holiday season for you? And how would you like to handle misunderstandings, upsets, conflicts during the holidays? Would you like some special tools for dealing with that? That's what we're going to dive into today. And there's one more on the setup, and then we're going to dive right into the tools. What keeps us stuck is right here. It's our comfort zone. Now I'm going to draw on this. Outside of our comfort zone, that blue line, that is our learning zone. And then outside of that, that other circle, which if I designed it differently, they would have just been concentric circles like a bullseye. But outside of that is the terror zone. And we don't want to get in the terror zone. We want to stay in that blue area, the learning zone. And today, we're going to try to learn some new tools so that you can walk away feeling empowered. So I want them to be simple, easy to apply, and I want them to be very effective under pressure. So number one of my mentors, a guy named Marshall Rosenberg, who taught me nonviolent communication. And he said that the problem with most communication, or the outcome rather, of most communication is misunderstanding. So problem number one, communication problems. And let's start with that. There's three, I've got to go reach all my cards. I've got about 20 of them over there. There's three big areas that create communication problems. You, self, me, self, to others, others to you, and self to self, or you to you. Now, which one of these, by the way, I'd love for you to enter in the chat room, but which one of these three, self to others, others to self, and self to self, which one of these is the most important one? And I'm guessing that you might get it, but it is really self to self. Now, I'm going to give you tips, though, about how to communicate to others. And what is it, when people are talking, what do they want from you? What do they want at the end? They want to walk away feeling these three things: heard, this is heard, understood, and valued. And how do they know that they were heard? Well, one of the best ways that people can know that they're heard is through feedback. You feedback what you think you heard. So let me tell you what I think I heard you say. And when you're doing that, one of the things you're trying to translate, you're translating, and I'm going to ask you, how many of you speak a different language? There's people from all around the country here, so how many of you speak a different language? I know you can't answer that, but you can answer it there to yourself. So if you speak a different language, what you're doing is a process of translation. And when people are communicating with us, there's one of two things that they're trying to do, especially if it's an emotional communication. It's either an act of love or a cry for help. Now, if we hear it as an act of love or we hear it as a cry for help, we are much more likely to want to respond with love. So when we're listening, what we're trying to do is get it. What is it? Is this an act of love? Is this a cry for help? And then the important thing, and I wish I had written down this in advance, but they have to so this is the key here in communication, or one of the keys. They have to get it that we got it. And how do we let them know we got it? We feed it back. So, honey, what I heard you say is you're really stressed out right now because the kids are this, or your parents are this, or you're really hurt right now because you want to go visit your friends and that's not going to happen, or you need to take time on yourself or something like that. So they have to get it that we got it. It's not good enough just to get it and go, I understand, or I heard you. Those Well, think about it this way. If you ever go to a used car salesman and he says, trust me, what's your first reaction? Is it that I trust you or not? Most likely it's not. So what you want to do is you want to feed it back and not say, I understand you, but here's what I understand. Here's what I heard. You're feeling really hurt. You're feeling upset. You're feeling pissed off. So they've got to get it that you got it. Got it? Cool. The second part of communication is when you're communicating. And there's three parts to when you're communicating. Number one is to be conscious. By the way, I'm recording this so you can listen to it again. What I'm trying to do here is give you a lot of information in a short period of time. They're not like a follow-up workshop from this or webinar or anything. This is it. I'm going to give everything I got right here. Wow, I'm sweating here in the beautiful sunlight. Okay, so 3 things when you're communicating. Number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, become conscious. Now, when I'm communicating, I'm conscious or I'm aware that what you think you're hearing is often different than what I think I'm saying. And which is more important to you, what you think you're hearing or what I think I'm saying? So normally, if you were right here and we were interacting, you'd say, well, what's more important to me is what I think I'm hearing. And so the only way I can find out what you're hearing is to ask you. I'll say, can you tell me what you heard me say? Oh, you heard that. Wow, let me try again. So number 1, I start from conscious. What is it I want you to hear? And I could say, honey, will you take out the trash? And if she gets really upset, I go, wow, what did you hear me say? She might go, well, that you told me I never help around the kitchen. I go, there's 2 ways to react here. Number 1 is to go, wow, that's so wrong. You never understand me. You don't listen well. That sucks. No wonder you're upset. You're a terrible listener. Now, that will accelerate the spiral to hell. You know, what starts this downward spiral, what accelerates it, what stops it, and what turns it around? Well, one of the things that accelerates it is communication like that. So what we want to be able to do is meet them where they're at and go, oh, so you heard that you never help around the kitchen. That I said that you never help around the kitchen. Wow, no wonder you're upset. Let me try again. And I take responsibility for what you heard. Now that's very different than what a lot of people say. But I take responsibility as best I can for what somebody's heard, and I keep adjusting until they hear what I want them to hear. It doesn't mean that they think the way I want them to think. It's just that they heard it, and I keep going. So that's being conscious. The next thing is, so conscious, the second thing is compassionate. Compassionate communication is where I meet them where they're at. So somebody could be going to a beautiful Christmas party and they live in a wonderful house and they've got a great family and they are totally hurt and disappointed and upset. One thing to do is to just go, honey, what is wrong with you? Don't you know there's people all around the world that don't even have a home or are starving tonight and aren't getting gifts, and you have all of this stuff? This is not compassion and normally pushes them away and makes them feel BSW, bad, stupid, and wrong. So compassion is to meet somebody where they're at. Then the third thing is to speak from a place of courage. And courage is talking about my feelings and my needs and being what I call powerfully vulnerable. If you get a chance, go on YouTube and go to TED Talks and watch an incredible video about vulnerability by, I think her name is Brene Brown, but if you just go to TED Talks and put in vulnerability, you'll find it. So this is what it looks like when you put it all together. And almost every conflict or upset that you've ever gone through, or at least that I've ever gone through, one of these 6 pieces was missing. Somebody didn't feel heard, understood, or valued, or when communicating, they didn't come from a place of consciousness, compassion, or courage. So this is about communication. What I want to do is going to say a little bit more about that, but I want to weave in some of those quick tips, tools, and techniques, and so that you can walk away with them. And I have a friend of mine, Jonathan Robinson, wrote the bestseller book on magical communication or something like that. Just go on Amazon. It's a great book. He's been on Oprah 4 times, and he was talking about 2 tips. So I'm borrowing some tips from him and from Byron Katie. So women, this especially works well with men, but men, this also can work with women. But here it is, 4 simple words. Rather than being upset and attacking your partner, just go, honey, well, that makes it 5 words. Honey, I need your help. And most men have a gene in there. It's like magic words. Somebody needs my help. We almost live for that. The second thing, guys, this is really important with women, especially when they're upset, or I should say the masculine and the feminine. I don't want to get into gender specific, but the masculine, when you're in the masculine role and dealing with the feminine, and the feminine is hurt or disappointed or sad or upset, the masculine tends to jump into problem solving. Well, did you try this? Did you do that? We try to fix them. They do not want to be fixed. So here is the simple 4 words for that. Well, they're 5 words. That must have really hurt. That must have been disappointing. That must have been frustrating. Or you must really feel sad. And this is that part of being compassionate and meeting them where they're at. So those are helpful tips. There's one other one. When somebody is pissed off with you, upset with you, and it feels like an attack, it feels like they're coming right at you. And the normal thing when somebody comes at you is to want to what? Push back, defend yourself, attack them. And one of the first things I learned when I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska, and I started taking this course on Tai Chi. And one of the things about Tai Chi is when somebody pushes, you don't push back. That's a fight of wills. It's like let them push and move the energy. And I studied with this woman, Byron Katie, and she says when somebody comes at you with an attack, if it triggers something inside you, if you get upset, it's normally because there's something inside you already there. If somebody said, Paul, you have green hair, it wouldn't trigger me because right now, I don't even have that much hair. But if I got upset, it's because somewhere inside of me, there was a button to be pushed, someplace that I could be triggered. So here is the Tai Chi move when somebody comes at you these holiday season with something that you don't necessarily appreciate or agree with. And hold on a second, there seems to be a request, view request. Oh, hold on. All right, there's a request, and I might get to that here in a second. Here's one of the responses. So if somebody says, Paul, you're being selfish and you're only thinking about yourself this holiday season, I can look inside and go, I've had that thought. And I can interact with that way. And I can find it inside myself. And what happens is, and it's not like I'm making myself bad, stupid, wrong. I just go, yep, I've had that thought. I actually want to pay more attention to myself this holiday season than I did in the past. And so that's one thing. I've had that thought. You can see that all of these methods, like 4 words, 5 words, simple. So number 1 is communication problems. Number 2 is when we get triggered. And number 2 is emotional hot buttons. And let's just see, we've got a request for a viewer. I'm going to invite him as a speaker and see what if they'd like to interact or not. So as I dive into the next thing. All right, triggers. So what happens when we get triggered? And think about how much fun is it to talk to somebody when they're triggered and they're reactive? And how much fun is it to be at a party when you're triggered and you're reactive? So would it be really useful to know what triggers you, how to get out of it, how to deal with other people that are triggered, all of those wonderful things? There's 3 parts to the brain. And this, by the way, just so you know, warning, this is an oversimplification. Totally an oversimplification. But here are the 3 parts to the brain. Number 1, there's the relating part. And relating, that's a part of the brain that also is connected to the heart. That relating part allows for empathy and understanding and love and connection. Oh, and I have right here, hopefully you can see it. This is my relating part of the brain. The second is the reasoning part. Now, this tends to be more of the feminine and the masculine side of our brain. So the masculine side tends to be more reasoning, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to solve the problems, and they're logical. And so that, I have Mr. Einstein here for when it comes for logic. Now, the problem is, if you're using logic when somebody's feeling sad, hurt, or misunderstood, logic rarely will allow them to feel heard, understood, and valued. You need to enter their world or have them enter yours. The third one is our reactive part of the brain. And the reactive part of the brain is also called the reptile part of the brain. And that is a great thing. The reactivity is a great thing for protection and safety. The other day, well, actually, it's been almost a month ago, we were in Colorado, up by the Eisenhower Tunnel. It's at 11,550 feet or something close to that. I was with my girlfriend, and we got stuck in a snowstorm, and there was at least probably 200 or 300 cars on I-70, all stuck, stop and go traffic. It literally took us probably 3 hours or more to go less than 10 miles. And I got triggered. I was in my reptile brain, and the reptile brain is great for protection and safety. The adrenaline kicks in, and it's able to do 3 main things: fight, flight, or freeze. And when I was on the highway, it was about fight. I needed to, I'm battling the snowy roads, and I wasn't able to focus and be gentle and compassionate with my beloved. I didn't yell, but I just said, I can't talk right now. I am totally focused on doing this, and it feels like life and death. And when you're in that mode, what you're really worried about is your safety. Now, see, there's some problems with that part of the brain. And this is my little reptile brain. That part of the brain can't tell the difference between danger or discomfort. And a lot of times we treat them as if they're the same. I feel uncomfortable, so what's near me? Oh, what's moving? that must be causing me to feel the discomfort or danger, so I'm going to attack. And oftentimes it's people we love and care about, or it's people we love and care about attacking us. So that's where it gets really confusing. So one part of the reptile brain is it can't tell the difference between danger and discomfort. And that's a really key thing when you start dealing with how do we solve it. Number two is it takes everything personally. Now, I know this is going to sound really ridiculous, but I'm up on this road. There's about, like I said, at least several hundred other cars stuck. And my reptile brain is going, why did they do this to me? Didn't they know I was in a rush to get home? It's like I took that personally. And I find that entertaining when I'm not in my reptile brain. When I'm in my reasoning or relating brain, it's pretty entertaining. The third thing about the reptile brain is it can't tell time. And what that means in a relationship is that sometimes it's 5 years ago that event happened, and all of a sudden you're triggered and upset, and you're in it and going, wow, it feels like it just happened yesterday. So it can't tell time. And what I'm going to do is help you understand what to do when you're in your reptile brain, and what to do with your partner when they're in their reptile brain. So what you want to be able to do is build your buffer zone. And a buffer zone is that zone in between, like your reasoning, your relating, your reasoning, and your reactive mode. Right here, there's a buffer zone, and you'll notice people like the Dalai Lama had a big buffer zone. It's not like you didn't feel it, but you rarely see the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi going into reaction and attacking. They rarely did that because they had a big buffer zone. They worked on it. And what I want you to think about is, what is it that helps build your buffer zone? For me, I know kayaking does it, racquetball does it, working out, yoga, meditation, going swimming. All of these things build your buffer zone. And you may want to have some conversations with your partner in advance and find out what builds their buffer zone, and make some agreements. Don't make the agreements in the middle of an upset when you're in reaction, but make them in advance. And when you are in reaction and you're starting to get triggered, let your partner know. Let your partner know in advance. Go, oh, or not in advance, but as soon as it starts happening, honey, I'm starting to get triggered right now. I'm getting plugged in. And make a request. Can we stop? Can you hold me for a minute? Can we talk about this in a minute when I get breathing time? What can we do something different? So that's it. So what I want to do, hopefully you've got your pens out earlier and are going to write this down, because I'm going to give you 4 things you can do to help move back from being triggered back into your reasoning or relating mind, getting out of the reptile and reactive mind. And all of the wonderful tips, tools, and techniques you get from Cosmo, from therapists, from relationship coaches like me, all of those things are great, and most of them don't work when you're triggered. Because when you're triggered, you don't have, that's not in the option. It's like, pick one of these 3. That's it. Fight, flight, freeze. And I'm a big guy, 6'3", and I remember getting in an argument years ago with my ex-fiance, and this was before I'd focused on this particular part of the brain a lot, and it was like I was frozen. She was yelling at me. I don't even remember for what, and I'm going, I can't even move. I should be able to talk right now. I'm not talking. It was embarrassing. I'm a little ashamed even to bring it up now, but I got it. It was a great example of, oh, that was freeze. I got triggered. I didn't want to fight with her. I didn't want to run away. So I was frozen. And that's what rabbits do. You look at a rabbit, they freeze a lot or they fly. So I'm going to give you 4 questions. How many questions? Whoops. Oh, there we go. 4 questions. Write these down. By the way, I see somebody's hand is raised, and I saw a request, and I tried to answer that request, so I don't know. I'm going to return you as an attendee. But if you have questions, please put your questions in the chat box. Over, for me, the chat box is over there. Put in your questions. There's a little bit of a delay, but as soon as I get them, I will try to interact with them. And if you want to even do a role play, I can bring you up live, and we can do that. When you come up live, everybody will see you. You'll be part of the interaction here. And I would gladly do that too. But all right, here you go. You ready for the questions? These are when you start to get triggered. And the important thing is it's a lot easier to deal with a baby when you're just getting triggered than it is an all-out reptile event. And you're totally triggered, and everybody looks like the enemy. One last thing about that, and then I'll give you the secret 4 questions. I was sitting in Buena Vista, Colorado, and outside there was a coffee shop there. I think it's a Brown Dog coffee shop. So I'm sitting there, the highway's going by, and all of a sudden I hear these sirens. And as the sirens get closer, what happens is all the cars on the highway move to the side, and boom, the siren, and I mean, this ambulance goes through. And why did the ambulance get priority over all the other cars on the highway? That car got priority because it was about safety and protection. The mind works the same way. When a thought comes up, you could be having the greatest, most loving conversation, and all of a sudden, this thought comes up about safety or protection. You start to get uncomfortable, and it takes over. And you go from this, you know, this loving, cuddling moment to this. And if your partner gets triggered by you being triggered, because our communication skills tend to get a lot worse when we're triggered, or they try to talk us out of it. And you can imagine how well this works when yeah, you shouldn't feel the way you feel. That's not logical. Oh yeah. Okay, enough entertainment. On to the big questions. Here we go. Number 1, I wish I had the top 10, whatever, David Letterman's top 10. But here's the top 4. Number 1, this is especially important. And this is, I designed this workshop today, this webinar, for anybody. And I particularly love working with couples, because I've gone through 1 divorce, 3 broken engagements, and I wish I had had the tools that I have now back then. So part of the reason I put these on is to help people that are in relationships where they really love each other, but they hate the way that they communicate. So this tool is important for that, or these questions. So number 1 is enemy or ally. When you get triggered, that reactive part of the brain is starting to search. Where is the danger? What do I need to protect myself from? Oh, somebody's moving. Are they the enemy or the ally? And it'd be really good if you're going to use this with your partner to kind of have them maybe watch this together, enemy or ally. And you can have that language And there has been a few times where, with my beloved, I go, oh, she looks like the enemy right now. Oh, man, am I triggered? And I'll say that. I'll just tell her, damn, you're looking like the enemy right now. And I really need I need a hug, or I need some space so I can switch back over and see you as my ally. And that's really important, because until you can see them as an ally, there's no moving forward. And you might need some space there. The second thing on this 4 questions, danger or discomfort. Am I really in danger right now, or is this just really uncomfortable? Am I pushing the edge of my comfort zone and I need to take a breather, need some space? The third question, do I want to be closer or further away from the situation or this person? Do I want this to bring me closer? Because if I react like they're the enemy, that's not going to bring us closer. And if my partner can react with love when I'm here, it quickly moves me up the chain when I feel heard, understood, and valued. And that's where I talked about earlier. If she can meet me, even when I'm really upset, and I walk away feeling heard, understood, and valued, that's a powerful, powerful tool. So that's number 1, enemy or ally. Number 2, danger or discomfort. Number 3, closer or further away. Number 4, and this is a critical one for moving forward, what do I need to feel safe? What am I protecting myself from? When I'm triggered and the adrenaline's running and I'm starting to get angry or scared or upset, there's something I'm protecting myself from. So on the highway, I'm protecting myself from a lot of things. There was a lot of cars, there was trucks that didn't have chains, danger was everywhere, and the danger was real. It was real danger. People, there was accidents. So I had to be really aware that was danger. Other times I've been in upsets where there's no physical danger, only emotional. And I'm feeling scared, and it was really about discomfort. So what did I need to protect myself from? That's a really important question. So one last thing on that. And by the way, I want you to ask yourself this. I'm going through 3 sections: communication problems, triggers, and needs. And at the end of each of them, I want you to decide, make a decision, and I want you to write in the chat box. I want you to be interactive. That's my request. But information is not going to really give you transformation. And I think you're on this call today because you want transformation. So what's going to give you transformation is not information, it's making a decision and then integrating it. So number 1, I want you to decide whether or not, now that you can see the old way of communicating and the new way of communicating. The old way is to make people feel bad, stupid, wrong. The new way is to enter their world so that they feel heard, understood, and valued. So which one do you want to do? So make a commitment to yourself. Make a decision. I am going to do what it takes to learn how to make people feel heard, understood, or valued, or I'm staying committed to the world where I make people feel bad, stupid, and wrong. And we're going to have this battle. And I know it's kind of like a leading question where it's kind of hard to go to the bad, stupid, wrong, but just be honest with yourself. Which one do you want? And I know there's been days where I've done that. I have been really committed to making somebody feel bad, stupid, wrong. And sometimes I'm committed to making myself feel bad, stupid, wrong. That sounds really silly, but I have done that. I make a mistake, then I beat myself up. What is that? That's that thing I was talking about earlier. Communicating self to self, or you to you. How do you treat yourself? The important thing is, how do you treat yourself, not when things are easy, but when things go wrong? Like at the beginning of this webinar, when I screwed up the technology for about 2 or 3 minutes, I was feeling a lot of technology shame and disappointment in myself. All right. So one other thing, when somebody's triggered, here's a key to get them out. So you can ask them these questions, the 4 questions I gave you, or you can do a pattern interruptus. You know, when somebody jumps out from behind a corner and goes, boo, that's a pattern interrupt. Any good comedian does a pattern interrupt. He thinks you're headed this way, and then he heads you another way. Great pattern interrupts can be anywhere from giving somebody a hug, or tickling them, or whispering in their ear, or I used whipped cream one time. I won't even tell you what I did. It was fun though. And there was whipped cream all around the kitchen when we were done, but it was a pattern interrupt. And the better you get at pattern interrupt, the more that you're going to be able to take on these reptiles and turn them back into your lover. So that's number 2. And so the decision here on number 2 is, do you want to have a thick buffer or a thin buffer? Do you want to be really reactive, or do you want to spend a lot more time relating and being reasonable? You know, in those 2 minds, the relating, the loving mind, and in the reasonable mind, there's a lot of power in the reasoning mind to solve problems. So which one worked for you? And go ahead and tap that into the chat box whenever you get a chance. And we're going to move on to number 3. Now, at one point, I was lucky enough to first staff for Tony Robbins as a volunteer, and then I ended up working for him on his staff. And then later on, he hired me to come back and teach his inner circle. And so that to me was an amazing compliment and appreciation. And I learned a ton. Tony Robbins is one of my mentors. He taught me so much about beliefs and about the power of making decision and commitment. He also taught me about needs. Now, another trainer I mentioned earlier, mentor, was a guy named Marshall Rosenberg. He taught me about nonviolent communication. And there was a lot. There was observation, feelings, needs, and requests. And Marshall Rosenberg taught me about a lot of different needs. Tony taught me about 6 key needs. And I'm going to go through those with you now. And Tony said that the purpose of being in a relationship, it's all about getting your needs met. Now, that might sound a little selfish, like, wow, it's all about me. No, not all about you. And when you know the 6 needs, this will make sense. But I guarantee you, when I work with couples, they can really love each other, but if they're not getting their needs met, they can be pretty miserable in that relationship. So it's important to know what the needs are, how to ask for them, how to meet them for yourself, and how to meet them for your partner. And we have a lot of what I call need shame, you know, especially for the masculine. The masculine shouldn't have needs because then you're needy. And the feminine's been conditioned to meet your needs last and to not be needy. So what I want to do is teach you about the needs and have needs pride. It's a new movement. So what are the 6 needs that are out there? And like I said, this 6 needs is training wheels. It's not that there's only 6, there's a lot more than 6. But I want to go through these 6. If you can identify these 6, then you're well on your way. And I'm looking at the time, and I think I have maybe 15 minutes left at the most. We're going a little bit over, so hopefully that's okay with you. Um, I want to go through the needs and what they are and a few other things, just a little bit, and then we're done. So need number one is certainty or comfort. And for us to really relax into a relationship, there's got to be a certain level of certainty and trust. Do I feel like my needs matter? Do I feel a certain level of certainty? Can I get my needs met in this relationship? Are my needs precious? The most upsetting thing to people, and it triggers us. So remember earlier, perfect storm. Perfect storm, I don't know how to communicate about my needs. Number two, if I don't think my needs are precious to my partner. And number three, if my needs aren't being met. Let's put them all together. It's relationship hell or the holidays from hell. So number one, on a scale of 1 to 10, think about it. What level are your needs being met or not being met? Do you have a certain level of certainty? So if you think about certainty is need number one, what's need number two? Now, if you got the same meal every night, or if you made love the same way every night, what would happen? You would need some variety or uncertainty. Now, if you look at it, there's so many different examples of this. Hugh Grant was married to, what was her name? Elizabeth Hurley, one of the most beautiful women supposedly in the world based on certain standards. And he gets busted for being with a prostitute. So if you get away from the judgment of right, wrong, good, bad, what need of his was he trying to get met? It probably was the need for variety. And he didn't have a good strategy. They didn't have clear communication so that they could meet it within the relationship. So what did he do? He went outside the relationship. So it's important that you sit down with your lover and say, okay, honey, how are we going to meet our need for variety? So that's number two. Number three is, and this one I realize is really strong for me, is a need for significance. I need to feel like I'm a priority, not the only priority in the relationship, but that I am a priority and that my partner sees my needs as precious. I also want to see her needs as precious and enjoy meeting those needs. One of the things Marshall Rosenberg said is the greatest gift we can give is the gift of receiving. So when I'm meeting her needs and she's receiving it and enjoying it, that brings me joy. That meets one of my other needs that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So that's number three, is the need for significance and being a priority. And look at it in your relationship. If you drew a chart with each of these 6 needs on it and put a scale from 1 to 10, 2 of those scales actually, from 1 to 10, on one side, how much do I contribute to the relationship? Do I make my lover feel like they're significant and a priority? And do they make me feel like I'm significant and a priority? Now, the thing is, the more that your needs are met, that builds a buffer zone in your mind and you're less reactive. If your needs don't matter, if you don't feel like your needs are being met, you become more jealous, more upset, more angry. You become more triggerable. The more that your needs are met, the bigger the buffer. So number 4, fingers not working right. Number 4, love and connection. So how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 with the area of love and connection? And one of the things that makes people feel really loved is when they feel heard, understood, and valued. All right, only 2 more to go. Number 5, growth. Are you growing in the relationship? Do they promote growth? Like right now, we're on the island of Kauai, and my beloved is off taking a workshop while I'm teaching a workshop. So it's all about growth. We enjoy contributing and we enjoy growing. So I'm trying to contribute and she's trying to grow right now. And then we're going to meet later and go out to dinner. So that brings us up to number 6. And by the way, is there only 6 needs? No, there's a ton of needs. But if you get these 6 wired well, I guarantee you this is like 80% of your relationship. If you get these 6 nailed down, that's about 80%. All right, the 6th need, contribution, the ability to contribute. And there's all different ways. This was one of my ways to contribute. Uh-oh, my battery's running out. Hold on, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna have to move my computer, so there we go. We're plugged in, yay! All right. So what is important about knowing the 6 needs is which one is a priority for you. They're like a combination lock. So this are the 6 needs. These are the 6 needs. Now the thing is, which needs are most important to you? Is it love? Is it connection? Is it certainty? Is it growth? Is it variety? And you'll find that a relationship that's really healthy is you understand each other's needs and what a priority they are. And I've watched, when I look back on this, I said, oh, I can see why that relationship failed, because we had similar needs, but they were very different in their priority. They had a very strong need for variety, and I had a very strong need for certainty. And so we collided a lot. So that's it for the needs. What needs to happen is you need to be able to identify them for yourself, for your other, for your lover, for the other people that you're going to be spending the holidays with. I just spent Thanksgiving with my brother and his wife and his daughter and my mom and her partner and my beloved and her son. So there were a lot of different people with a lot of different needs all out there, and trying to understand and identify what are their needs and help them identify their needs. And then ask for my needs and help them ask for their needs to be met. And understand it. The important thing is that people know that their needs are important to you, that they're precious. You're not always going to be able to meet their needs at the time frame that they want them met. And the last thing is giving and receiving. So meeting their needs, getting your needs met. So let's kind of do a summary of what we've covered here. We started with, or this was pretty early on, from feeling stressed, identify what the problems are, what the causes are, come up with solutions, get some, and implement them, and then be happy. So we identified those 3 key things. So this is my summary part. 3 key things. What are the big stressors? Number 1, communication. Number 2, your triggers. Number 3, needs not being met. Step number 2 was to give you some tips and tools to be able to deal with that. The tips and tools we went on for communication. I need your help. That must have really hurt. Or I'm guessing you feel pretty sad right now. Or when somebody comes at you with something that feels like an attack, if you can look inside and just go, I've had that thought, that's going to help get you out of that mood. Then we got into all of the triggers. The brain. and the three parts of the brain, the relating, the reactive, the relating, the reasoning, and the reactive. And when you're in that reactive brain, the 4 questions. Wait a second, whoops, that's not 4 questions. Sorry about that. Here we go. 4 questions. Enemy or ally, danger or discomfort, closer or further away, and what do I need to feel safer? Lastly, we went through the 6 beliefs: certainty and comfort, uncertainty and variety, significance, priority is number 3. Number 4 is love and connection. Number 5 is growth. And number 6, drum roll please, is contribution. Being able to identify those things. That covers it. What I'd like to do is see if you have any questions, if you could type them in. For some reason, I may not be getting your questions because I'm not seeing questions coming up. So I'd love to see them. The last part here, drum roll please. I've given you all that I know how to give in this short period of time, and be respectful of your time. And for some of you, that was good enough. You got the information you needed. Some of you want to go much deeper and turn it into transformation. This is not going to happen before the holidays, because to go from transformation, from information to transformation, is integration. At least I'm not going to be able to help you before the holidays. You can definitely take what I've taught you here and totally integrate that long before the holidays or during the holidays, since they're here. What's going to happen is the beginning of next year, I'm going to start a 3-month program where we're going to be teaching each of these skills, the communication skills, the need skills, the dealing with triggers, and we're going to be able to apply it to your specific life. So there's going to be group learning, and then there's going to be group coaching, and then there's going to be some private coaching in between, so we can deal with your personal stuff, whatever it is that you want coaching on. So we're just in the beginning of figuring out how this is all going to happen, but it's basically a 3-month program, and it's going to have content, it's going to have coaching, and there's going to be a community. And the coaching, well, the content is taking a lot of what we learned here and going a lot deeper. And you're going to learn the 3 basic skills that you need for relationship, which is how to clear up the past, how to get present and connect, and then how to create a plan for the future. And this is designed around loving relationships. You can use it if you're single, you can use it with family or kids or all the rest of it, but this is designed for couples, or however the dynamics of your relationships are. It's for loving relationships. The next part is coaching, and coaching is taking this information and how do I apply it in my specific situation. And then the third part is community, and community at some levels is holding yourself accountable and holding other people accountable to get the results that they're committed to have. Because this stuff is going to take you outside of your normal comfort zone. The reason that you continue to get the results you're getting is because you continue to take the actions you've taken and you continue to stay with the old beliefs. So to get a new result, you have to change your habits, patterns, and beliefs. And sometimes that takes getting out of your comfort zone and being held accountable by your partners and holding your partners accountable. So this is going to be good for people that are willing to be flexible and contribute to others. It's not going to be good for people who are just all about yourself. It's all about me, me, me. That's okay, but this is not for people like that. So if you're interested, what you could do is send me an email and we'll set up a time to have like a 30-minute talk and go through more details and see what's the best solution for you. Because some people need something that's immediate. And if they need something that's immediate, their problem is urgent, that might just be private coaching. And there's a lot of people that I work with that do private coaching. If it's more long-term and their skill level is higher, there's some other things that we can do. So if you're interested and want to see if you qualify, send me an email, info, I-N-F-O, I should have written this down, info@magicrelationship.net. All right, that's it. Thank you so much. I really wish you the happiest of holidays. And if you get a chance, put something up on Facebook. Let me know, what did you get out of today? Did this touch you? Did you relate to it? What made the most sense to you? And if you're confused about certain things, you can also send me an email and I'll gladly answer that. So this is Paul Sterling, relationship coach, wishing you an amazing and happy holidays. Aloha.